This is just a very mixed bag in terms of what works for it, what works against the film. What works in favor of the film. Welcome back, all dinosaur fans, to my review of 65, or as it should have been better titled, Kylosaurus Ren. I'm more proud of that title than I should be. After last year's big disappointment in Jurassic World Dominion, the writers of A Quiet Place took it upon themselves to give us a fix for some proper dinosaur action. Or did they? We're gonna discuss it. While on a space expedition, a pilot makes a catastrophic crash landing on an unknown planet. Quickly discovering he must make his way across unknown terrain riddled with dangerous reptilian creatures, big and small, with the only other survivor, a child named Koa, before their time runs out. And the journey to 65 has been rather interesting. Nobody knew about this film before the trailer actually came out. And the more you discover about this film, having Adam Driver as the lead, who is so selective and picky with his role choices, having caliber behind the camera such as the writers of A Quiet Place, produced by Sam Raimi, this looks nothing, feels like nothing but promising. And as we get close to the release date, there are no advanced screenings. The embargo doesn't lift until the day of release. And so it shows that at least the studio does not have confidence in this film. And after seeing it, I understand. This is not a great movie. In fact, this is a film that falls far short of its potential. They do not entirely screw up such a promising premise, but at the same time, it is a film that feels simple to a fault. It is immensely basic. That being said, I personally found it to be an overall solid sci-fi thrill ride that is not shy of having issues. As soon as the film begins, you get all the groundwork laid. There's no time travel shenanigans involved. It just so happens that 65 million years ago, there was an alien species from a faraway planet that just happens to look, speak, dress, and act exactly like us, and they happen to crash land on this planet, and it's Adam Driver. And it is one of those rare movies that you could argue it would make a whole lot more of sense if there actually was time travel. Because apart from that introduction that I just spout out to you, there's no further explanation about who these characters are, how their involvement in this changed anything. And so it feels like the world building is very lackluster, unfortunately. Like, there's just nothing else that you get to know about these species of living beings. And so it feels like quite a few of the ideas baked into the very premise of this film are undercooked. There's just no world building at all, and that was immensely disappointed. It feels like I'm veering away from my usual structure of reviews where I usually go through positives first and negatives last, but this is just a very mixed bag in terms of what works for it, what works against the film. What works in favor of the film is the dinosaur action. I'm a sucker for anything dinosaurs. As a kid, I grew up loving dinosaurs. The Jurassic Park franchise, the BBC specials, all these documentaries, anything that talked about dinosaurs, I ingested. And this film is no different. All the action set pieces are so much fun, where there's not only great action, you're seeing dinosaurs on screen, where they took some liberties with certain dinosaurs designs where at first I found myself questioning it, but ultimately I appreciated the creativity put into the designs of the dinosaurs. But it also keeps you on the edge of your seat. There are genuinely good jump scares in this film and some really nerve-wracking sequences where you'll see a character in the dark and he doesn't understand what these creatures are. He doesn't know what these creatures are. He's never seen anything like it. So there's still a familiar, relatable response to seeing these dangerous creatures right next to you. But there really is a sense of fear throughout this film. There is a sense of stakes from the very beginning that leads to some exhilarating high-intensity sequences where you just have this one dude trying to protect this girl. And the further the film goes on and you further understand what makes each other tick and their relationship flourishes, it works out really well because the girl just so happens to be from a different part of his planet, and so they don't necessarily speak the same language. And at first, that feels frustrating, but in the long run, really works in the film's favor and really works to have these characters connect on a deeper level because they can't necessarily communicate by words, by language. And so the writers are forced to have this bond emerge between the two where it's mostly through actions. It's mostly through what each other does. And so the performances are able to be much more nuanced than they could have been otherwise. I really appreciate the relationship between Mills and Koa in this film, and certain plot mechanics that usually grate me in films like this, again, really work in the film's favor. They make it work well enough. Certain familiar cliches and tropes that I'm really annoyed by didn't annoy me so much in this film because they were creative with how they make it come across. With how they're injected into the story, it feels like there's real effort and care in that. That said, and on top of all the other issues we've talked about, this is a film that feels very much chopped. It feels like there are ideas in here that were cut for time, and you feel that in a runtime. Because all the good things about this film are great things, and then it just feels like in the editing room, in post-production, it was chopped to bits, where the film was originally going to be directed by Sam Raimi, and he ended up dropping off, maybe for Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness, and so it doesn't quite feel like there's a distinct voice behind the camera, giving this film a sense of direction, a sense of personality. The film doesn't have nearly as much fun with this idea as it could. Again, it's ultimately solid. I had a good time. I can recommend it, but it is basic. There's a lot about this film that is just immensely disappointing, while being entertaining enough. And that is the key word here. It's fun and entertaining enough. The concepts and ideas just don't feel nearly as fleshed out as they should be. Everything you see in front of the camera is somewhat elevating the concepts and ideas, but it can only do so much. And that is a shame because whether you're talking about in front of the camera or you're talking about behind the camera, there's caliber in this film. There's talent that has delivered far better work than they do in this film. And so I understand Sony being afraid. I understand a ton of people not liking this film. I had fun. I just like seeing dinosaurs and Adam Driver shooting dinosaurs. And I think there's a lot of promise with these ideas, but there's no denying this is not the best version of these ideas we could have gotten, unfortunately. But as I dive into my final thoughts on 65, or again, Kylosaurus Ren, it is time for the fun part where you start the conversation about it in the comments below. Let me know what is your favorite movie featuring dinosaurs and your favorite Adam Driver performance. Also, if you're enjoying this review, there's many more like it right up here. I talk about movies all the time, whether they have dinosaurs or not. So if you want to stick around the channel, if you want to talk more movies and TV, this is the place to be. So consider clicking that subscribe button and you won't miss any future conversations on your favorite movies and TV. 65 mostly gives us the Jurassic World movie we've waited for. It is a satisfying enough movie with kick-ass action sequences, great effects, and a compelling, even if familiar character dynamic at its core. But it is also simple to a fault, as the generic plotting and lack of world building undermine its true potential. Basic, but solid. I'm giving 65 a C+. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to let me know your thoughts on 65. I find it to be such a hard movie to pinpoint where it fits in a certain box in terms of grade or what it's good and bad about it. So I cannot wait for the discussion with you. Also, big shout out to my channel members for always supporting the channel. So until the next one, love each other and love the movies.